What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of TokNews. We are back after a little lull there. Just had a break, mainly my fault of needing a break, and then we kind of postponed some scheduling. We were like, let's shoot it at midnight, and then I was like, we need to spend some more time on this. We were like, we came to an episode before. We're gonna do like a midnight episode, and we're gonna talk about what we're talking about today, which is the Restrict Act. And we were both like, do we have any topics to talk about? We're like, let's just do an episode on the Restrict Act. We're like, okay, cool. We'll just push it back. We'll get back on track on Friday, and we'll have some more due diligence, and we'll do some more homework on it so we can come to this episode prepared. So that's what we'll do most of today's episode is I know this is probably what everyone's most like exciting topics is government legislation. But I would say like 99% of the time people don't care about it. I think this is a unique case because it's reminding people of certain big bills like the Patriot Act. There's a lot of talk about it. Obviously, the TikTok ban. This is kind of the bill they're proposing to do that. We'll talk about why that's, I think, kind of BS in the first place. But it seems like people are very, very interested in this. It's a very hot button issue. So we figured we'd break it down today, share our opinions and thoughts on it, where we think it's going, all that good stuff. And then at the end, we have some cool product updates that are happening on the app and the ad side that are coming your way. So hang out for the full episode to hear those at the end. So let's dive right in, man. Let's just start with like I don't know if you want to give a high level overview. I can give a high level overview of just kind of the act itself, where we're at right now, and then we can just dive right in of like what our thoughts are about the bill itself and the ramifications of it.
Yeah, I mean, like a quick TLDR of it. The Restrict Act is basically the method in which the government wants to attempt to ban TikTok. But underneath this Restrict Act, it's came out that there's a lot of, let's say, very sketchy things that are very vague and open to interpretation and doesn't actually cite TikTok at all. It just is this like broad overview of like, if an app does this, we can banish it. But it doesn't say which app, for what reason, for what context, or nothing like that, which has led a lot of people when they've looked a little bit deeper into it to be like, hey, this is actually quite terrifying what's inside of this and how vague it is. A couple of things that are very simple, and we can go into more detail afterwards, is just you can't use a VPN. A VPN is a virtual private network. So if you've ever wanted to protect your data or your security, or you don't want people to like look at what's going on, you would use a VPN to protect yourself. Apparently, this Restrict Act, if you use a VPN and if it's passed, you can get up to 20 years in prison and have to pay, I can't remember what the amount is, but something absurd, like
It's a
$100,000 or something
quarter
fines.
quarter million,
Yeah, a quarter million
250K.
dollars. Yeah, just by using a VPN. I think one thing that's really scary, I was listening to on a podcast recently, and I thought it was a good point. They said it doesn't give the government or Congress, it's about the trade commissions, I believe. They're the ones who are able to leverage this. And these are people who weren't actually voted or
Yep.
elected officials. They just got the job. So it's kind of this scary thing where most people don't even know, I would say the general population of America don't even probably know who these people are, why they were elected, how they got there, etc. And they're able to systematically go through and basically destroy everything in terms of like freedom on the internet. In a very short TLDR, your freedom and rights on the internet are more or less at risk. One thing I told a lot of people: if you want to ban TikTok for whatever reason, that's your opinion, that's your belief. Go for it, but not in this method, because you're not banning TikTok. You're essentially banning your freedoms online. If you want to ban TikTok, I think you should do it the way that it should be, or should be regulated, etc. But the idea of using this as a fear mongering tactic to say, hey, by the way, now we can get your data and we can request it from any company and they will give it to us, like everything. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty scary. There's a lot more like we can get into of like what it entails and what the difficulties are. I think that greatest irony of this all is fighting Chinese communism by passing a bill that's enforcing communistic like tactics. It's just so weird.
Yeah, that's my favorite argument that I keep seeing on social about this for people that are like okay with this is like, well, China did it to us with like they don't allow Facebook and certain things, so we should do it. And I was like, that's like the logistical hurdles you're jumping through there are pretty wild because basically you're just saying like we don't like China. China's our enemy because of the way they govern their people. Therefore, let us just do the exact same thing China does. It's like it's this weird thing where I don't think people realize how crazy their logic is. That like we're the whole reason we're doing this in the first place is because we view China as a threat. We view their Communist Party as a threat. We view the way they govern as a threat, their censorship, the way they control business, the fact that they don't allow companies like Facebook and stuff to operate there without censorship. But our way to combat that is not to keep pushing for freedom and say we're the opposite. We're the freest country in the world. This is where you should do business, try to attract business. It's let's just do the exact same thing. And I like personally, I just think it's a terrible a terrible thing. It's like, they murdered somebody, so let's murder somebody. It's like tit for tat, and that doesn't usually end in a positive place. So yeah, it's very interesting. Back to your point of what you were saying before, it's like, yeah, so Secretary of Commerce essentially gets most of this power. So it's a lot of like executive branch appointees. So it's like a lot of the power that's going to be given in this bill is not given to anybody we're electing. It's given to political appointees, which are usually people that get the job because they're like mega donors or they're close friends or they did like that's where it even gets more slippery. It's like these are people that weren't just appointed because maybe they're really good at their job. A lot of these appointees are appointed there as favors. It's like, hey, you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And then there's this, so they're not unbiased. It's like if the president wants something, essentially, they're going to get it done. And like, that's the last thing we need is more power put into a single branch of government, especially the executive branch of government. We're talking about like one person essentially. Yeah, it's very scary. It's I think, and we can kind of riff on this a bit. I think the challenge with a lot of stuff, and it's brilliant if you are a leader, if you are a government official, if you're congressman, senator, if you're the president, this is they know how to manipulate people. They know how to get things done. They know when to make their move. And the best time to do that is when people are scared, right? Fear is a really, really powerful motivator. And fear has been used throughout history by all kinds of leaders, good and bad, to push for more power, to say, hey, things are going to get really bad. There's an enemy coming. There's a war coming. Let us protect you, right? And most people are okay with that. Most people are okay with giving up their freedoms temporarily, they think, in place of getting security. So, hey, I'll give up some freedom, get security, right? That's the trade off. And that happened in our country in 9/11, right? 9/11 happened. Everyone was terrified. We didn't know if there'd be another terrorist attack. We didn't know if there was going to be a bombing at the mall. We didn't know, like, everyone thought something bad was going to happen the next day, the day after. And so, what did our government do? They said, hey, this is a really good time to push for some really aggressive legislation for invasion of privacy in the trade off of security. So, it's, hey, Patriot Act. Hey, give us this power. We promise we are only going to use this to find terrorists. And what Americans going to say, like, that's a bad deal. It's like, of course, like, you can, do wiretaps, turn on webcams, do whatever you want, big brother, to go find terrorists because I don't want the building I'm in to get hit by a plane. And it turns out years later, Snowden comes out and says, hey, this bill and stuff, like, actually, they were using it to spy on everybody, regardless of whether you were a terrorist or on a watch list or not on a watch list. And I just really think that people need to take a step back, take their emotions out of it, take a breath and say, okay, whatever your feelings of TikTok are, you could hate TikTok, you could love TikTok, you could be indifferent to TikTok. Don't let your emotions of a single event and a single company allow you to be blinded into approving and supporting a piece of legislation that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, could be used in really, really, really bad ways. And this bill can. If you read the language in this bill, the language is so insanely broad. Like, we can read some of the snippets of it. It is ridiculous, the how broad it is. And it purposely is written this way so that in the future, it can be interpreted by the courts in favor of whatever the government wants. And that should really scare people.
I think one thing that's worth mentioning too is that the Restrict Act applies to all existing hardware, software, mobile apps, and as well as, and it says it in it, future AI tools,
Yep.
fintech. I guess they added quantum communications and e-commerce products. So it's not just apps. It's just like whatever fintech to me was like the scariest one. It's like Robinhood. Hey, we don't like that. Bye. It's like,
Yeah,
wait, you just
cryptocurrency.
shut us. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Crypto. Like it's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty scary to me. Like I don't think people are really thinking like it is because, like you said, when the Freedom Act or whatever came out, people were just scared. And then we found out, and then we realized, hopefully, things were changed or are going to be changed. But this one is like, it's the internet. I think even in like some very relatable ways, like we've seen this with COVID. There was a lot of, conversations that were, restricted or banned or deleted or whatever. But now they could go after you. Now they could fine you. Now they could take seize your property, throw you in jail for just having something that maybe they determine, which hasn't even been determined yet. It could be something in 10 years. It was like, hey, remember that shit you did 10 years ago? We don't actually like that anymore.
Yeah, it's
You're fine.
retroactive. And that's
Yeah,
what
it's just
Joe
like,
Rogan was
what?
talking about this the other day. He was saying like there's stuff I probably said like 10 years ago that, could be interpreted in a certain way. So a lot of people are scared. It's like if you can retroactively go back and find somebody the government just doesn't like and go back and find a statement they made that could be loosely interpreted to have, manipulated an election, right? They could say like,
Mhm.
all the people that said, the election was rigged or things like that, whether you agreed with it or not. And that also applies to people like Al Gore, because Al Gore back in 2000 said, that, hey, I won the election, the election wasn't fair. So like it could apply to people on both sides, right? That said certain things about the election, about COVID, about all these different things, whether they turn out to be true or totally false. If you said it, you said it. And now what a lot of people are going to say to this is like, well, technically in the bill, that only applies to companies with ownership from a select group of countries. I think it's like
Mhm.
China, it's North Korea, it's Iran, it's Russia. There's a handful of countries that are on that list. But it also says a caveat below that the Secretary of Commerce and the group can basically add new countries to that list. And it's a pretty loose process for how they get added. And a lot of this happens in secret courts. A lot of it doesn't have to be proven to the public. It can FOIA requests don't get accepted for a lot of this stuff. So they could technically add any country they want at any point, right? So if they want to just have a certain country that where the company that's operating they don't like, they can just say, hey, this country we're going to add to the list. But the other thing people need to remember, it doesn't just mean that China needs to own the entire company. It could also, I believe in the bill, it says owner like interest in. So ownership in a company, which means companies like Reddit. Reddit, I believe 10% is owned by not by ByteDance. It's owned by Tencent, I think. One of the big Chinese tech companies owns a huge chunk of Reddit. So does Reddit fall under this bill now? Where essentially, if anybody posted on Reddit and said something against the election or against COVID or about cryptocurrencies or whatever it might be, or against the Ukraine war, does that fall under the purview of this law? Because Reddit is not 100% owned by an American company. China does own a relatively large chunk of that company. And there's a lot of other companies that have Chinese ownership. We've talked about it on the show before. We've listed some of those companies. Now, not all of them are, tech companies, but, the Chicago Stock Exchange, AMC Movie Theaters, Legendary Entertainment Group, GE, Waldorf Astoria, Strategic Hotels, Riot Games, Motorola, right? Ingram Micro. Like there's a lot of companies, and not just a handful of them. There's a lot more that have ownership interests. Do those companies fall under this bill? How far does that get pushed?
Yeah, I'm trying to find one of my old posts that I wrote back in 2020 when Trump threatened to ban it, and I was talking about pretty much the same reminiscent way of like, if you're trying to ban TikTok, you got to ban this in this way. And it was talking about, or I was talking about, Tencent and how much of investments they have. Tencent kind of owns the gaming industry. Like they don't
Yep.
technically own the gaming industry, but the amount of investments they have, Snapchat, Universal Music record label, Discord, Supercell, Activision, Epic Games, Blizzard, Riot Games, Ubisoft, Tesla, Glue Mobile. Like these are these are like the top ones. So I can imagine all those investors, being forced to do something or whatever. I think the other part that's really scary too is just that all future stuff. Things that we don't even know where to come, or technologies that are going to merge, or what's going to happen with certain companies. It's I don't know. It's pretty scary in terms of what I think the internet's evolved into and where it's going, especially with AI, for people to not just, like you said, take a step back and be like, hey, I can still want to ban TikTok, whatever. That's your own personal views and whatever, but not this way. Like not this way. Which is funny and ironic because you sent me that message on Slack the other day where the Biden officials are working with TikTok influencers for their next campaign. I'm just like, you have this sitting president using the company or the platform that supposedly is such a threat to national security to promote his election. It's just so, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm in some Twilight thing. Like, is it
It's
bad or is it not bad?
it's because they don't. It's this is what people need to realize. And I don't care what you think of it. Like you could think this is a BS statement, but the reality is, I don't know a single politician that truly 100% what they're doing is about your best interest or their voters' best interest. At the end of the day, a vast majority of what they care about is getting reelected, getting favors, improving their position. That is the reality. That is flat out the reality, and you can see that based on their actions, right? You look at
Mhm.
again the Biden
Or
administration, and
inaction.
yeah, or inaction. And it's not just him. It's Republicans, it's Democrats, everyone across the border, across the aisles. But they are going to say certain things and they're going to do certain things when it's in their best interest. So, of course, TikTok, we can't allow it in the White House on government devices. It can't be anywhere because they can track movements and all this stuff, like all the theories they have of what TikTok, this massive spyware, can do. So we need to ban it. We need to ban it. We need to ban it. I need control. But I also need to get reelected. And all the young people are on this app. So when it's convenient to me, we're going to use this tool, even though it is this malicious, terrible spyware that's so dangerous that we can't have it anywhere near government devices or military bases or all these things. But let's invite, set up a second, they're going to set up a second press briefing room, I believe. That's what the discussion is in the White House. That's going to allow TikTok influencers to come, and not just TikTok, but Instagram, all the social platforms, TikTok included, and ask questions, all that stuff. Theoretically, I mean, I'd imagine all going to have their phones, and they're all going to have TikTok. Even the people that are Instagram influencers and YouTubers are going to have TikTok on their phone, and they're going to be using TikTok in the White House to record video to get stuff with Biden, with members of the administration. So it can't be either or. It either needs to be this is a huge threat to national security. And if that's your position, that's fine. But you need to act like it. It needs to be universal. You can't conveniently allow the app into the White House when it's about your reelection. And then every other
Yeah.
instance say it needs to be banned from the country. And 150 million Americans now can't use it because I'm done using it. Right. I use it for my means, my purposes, and I'm good. Right. At least like AOC, for example, like AOC
Mhm.
came out in support of it. Like I'm not a huge fan of her, but at least she's consistent. Like she knows that
Mhm.
she needs to use this app to get reelected and progress her career. She sees it as a marketing tool and a means to reach her voters and get more famous. But at least she's consistent. She's like, hey, like I'm gonna support this app, and I'm also gonna use this app. That's fine. Like you're being consistent at least in that one view. You're not consistent in a lot of other things, but at least
Yeah.
with that you're consistent. Everybody else on this, it's like you're saying ban it, and then at the same time you're using it when it's convenient and in your best interest. And that's just like I think people see through that now. I think people are seeing this bill for what it is. They're seeing this is not about just TikTok. This is a power grab. This is a government overreach. This is about them putting a bill in place that down the road they can use to censor things they need to censor when it's in their best interest. That if there's another Hunter Biden laptop thing, or there's another Trump story, or there's whatever it might be on both sides, that whoever's in power can use it to say, hey Facebook, hey Twitter, hey Google, hey TikTok, hey Snap, we need all of this removed. We need this person banned. And if you don't, we're gonna, fine you, or we'll go after the users and we'll go direct to them and say, hey, Joe Rogan, this podcast episode, you said this about the Ukraine war. That's not okay. That's causing people to not support the war anymore, which is a threat to our national security and global security. So we need this episode removed. And if you don't remove it, you potentially can go to jail because you reach a lot of people and can influence people.
Yeah, I think it's scary too in the sense of like the unprecedence of it, where just recently someone leaked, I guess they found the kid who was 21, linked Pentagon private classified information about us spying on Ukraine and all that stuff, blah blah. But I believe in this restrict act it also can enforce what can be said and applied to on social platforms. So I can imagine if Facebook started, the government starts cracking them down, finding, etc., I would imagine there's not a lot of incentive for Facebook or these other platforms to allow for certain discourse to happen. Cause like, dude, we're getting fined $8 billion a year. We're not going to do this anymore. So I think even for us being able to talk about and have the freedom to have conversations and opinions and thoughts, I'm not saying Facebook will shut down everything, but I would imagine, topics that are a little bit taboo or they're a little bit like, you know, not so bipartisan, we'll say, would just not be having it anymore. Like they'll just, kill your reach or just take it down or it's in violation, strikes and stuff like that. Which I think is like, again, more like the actual threat of what this bill has. I think one thing that's really ironic and funny is that the way that this information about what this Restrict Act actually was doing came from TikTokers finding it and then getting massive virality on TikTok, and then it spilled over to YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. But it's funny, the platform that's the threat to democracy was the one that fueled the fire to talk about how this bill is going to take
Yeah.
away democracy. It's just so, I don't know. I feel like it's just this weird greatest irony that if it wasn't for TikTok allowing the distribution of information freely like this, probably most people, including myself, I'm not going to read this 800 page or whatever it is, bill or whatever. There was I don't know, it was a talk show or there's some interview that came out recently where the host asked somebody from Congress about the Restrict Act, and the guy had no clue what was in it. And the host of the show just kind of clowns him and is just like, yeah, you should probably read this before you start, approving it. Or and he's like, yeah, we're gonna go back and read it. It was just so ironic where it's like you didn't even know what it had and you signed it and you're like, yeah, we need this. This is the best thing. And then when
Yeah,
asked like
I think it was
a
on
basic.
Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity. It was one of the Fox shows, and I think it was like Lindsey Graham. I think they were asking. I think it was yeah. I think it was asking him about some of the things that were in there, and yeah, he was like, "Oh, I don't support it now." Like he's basically like, "I don't support that," and said, "I'll look into it." But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's hard for me to take any politician seriously these days because they're just such hypocrites. Like you have both parties, right? You have like the Republican Party that's supposed to be, and they've been saying this for years, like says we need Rumble and we need all these platforms because we need a platform that doesn't get censored. We need social media out there that nobody can take down, and we don't want speech taken down, regardless whether we consider it hate speech or not hate speech or all these things. They've been pushing for this, but at the same time, like I don't know how you can say those things and bring in Zuckerberg and bring in Dorsey and bring in and grill them because they censored this, they censored this, and then at the same time support a bill that basically gives the government ridiculous overreach and general power to shut down speech that it views as harmful and dangerous. Like I don't know how you do those two things. And then on the Democrat side, how you're the party of, liberties and free speech and, for a long time that's what the Democratic Party was. It's like, all this stuff and be in favor of this bill. It's both sides of it. Like I think it had momentum early on. I think it's becoming a little more toxic because public sentiment is swaying. Because unlike
Mm.
2001 and early 2000s with the Patriot Act, you have social media now. You have all these communication tools and the internet. You didn't have that level of social and content sharing that you had back then. So it all takes is a few people that are big creators to break this down to really get a lot of the American people to see like this is kind of BS. And then you have the ACLU, you have the Electronic Trade Federation, you have all these big organizations coming out saying like, hey, this is terrible. Like this is a real danger and a real threat to free speech and democracy. Something that we should view as sacred in this country.
Yeah, I don't think these people in government fully understand and realize what's changed in terms of distribution and
Yeah.
like eyeballs, because a lot of YouTubers and TikTokers, Instagram, they get the same amount of views, if not more, than these massive broadcast channels. And I don't think they realize like, your average YouTuber is getting 10 times the amount of views as anything the government puts out. So it's like,
Yeah.
you doing these little sneaky things, or you threatening their ability to have that this new version of like, distribution of content. They ain't giving that up. And I don't think
Nope.
they realize like we can fly this on the radar. It's like, no, no, you now got the eyeballs of, let's say, the accumulation of like 4 billion people, if you added up all the YouTubers talking about this and the traffic they get talking about it, compared to your shitty little like, psyops that you're trying to do for 2 million people on whatever, CCP or whatever, or not CCP, C-SPAN or something. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, it reminds me every day how absurdly dumb a lot of our older elected officials are and how much they just don't get it. They don't understand. Or they're just old. Like, they just, it's like the radio, right? Like, no, this is nothing like the radio, especially with the advancements of AI coming out, which maybe that's a whole other topic we can get into another
Yeah.
time. But just like, how are we going to have our elected officials protect the country from AI certain things when it's like, you guys don't even know how Wi Fi works? and we're trying to talk about artificial intelligence with you. Like, I don't know, it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, the Restrict Act. I don't. I'm like 99% certain this shit is not going to pass, especially with. I think if it was bipartisan to ban TikTok via this, I feel like it's even more bipartisan now for people to be like, no, we are not going to have this because, like you said, there's so many companies and corporations, and I think I seen someone like one of the unions came out and talked about it because it like threatened them. Where it's like I've never seen a bipartisan backlash before. Where it's like I don't like that guy, but they're messing with our money and our company now. So let's team up. let's work together. I think I seen something like Ben Shapiro was talking about somebody else who's like on the opposite aisle of him, and he's like, I agree with that guy. Like I will go to courts with him and show up to Congress with him to let them do this. And I was like, that's they hate each other. They're about a
Yeah.
fist bump of like that's the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody, yeah, like anybody that does like content. So you look at Daily Wire, you look at the Young Turks, or any of these groups that like produce content, have like audiences. They all pretty much universally agree that like this could be like at least they're smart enough to see, regardless of your views of them politically, smart enough to see that like right now it could work in one group's favor, but if Trump gets reelected or DeSantis gets reelected, gets elected, like then it could be used on the other side. So if you're the Young Turks, like you might be okay with it now because you don't think anybody's gonna come after you for your statements. But if it's a conservative in power, like and you're saying some things critical of them, like that's a threat to you. Same thing the Daily Wire are viewing it now. So I think if you're a content creator, if you're somebody that's built a large audience, like you probably view this in the same lens, regardless of your political leaning. So, which I think everyone should. I think everyone should just do the mental exercise of thinking of how could this bill impact you with two extremes in office, with an extreme on the right, extreme on the left. What would that mean to you? And if you view it that way and you realize that one side could really, if it was in power, could really hurt you, like probably don't support something because that could happen. It could happen in 2 years.
Yeah, I think one quick thing to note too is that it's about the transactions as well, commerce. So if
Yeah.
if you transact money via the internet, or whatever way they want to loosely define the internet, it affects you. So everything, your banking app, your Chase, your Cash App, Venmo, whatever it is, like it could literally be affected. I think that's how they were going to originally take down TikTok was if there's any transactions done with TikTok, you'll be penalized or whatever. So that was basically gutting you know Apple. They if they allow if people do donations on TikTok live and Apple process that, boom, you're down. Advertisers, boom, you're down. Like they were just going to gut them from like a money perspective. But if they did it through the Restrict Act, hey, we actually don't like Robinhood, and because you are doing a transaction now and you allow for people in China to do it, okay, you're done. You're done with. That's where I think. And then again, the future, any future thing. So we don't even know
Yeah.
what's to come yet. Where 10 years from now we might be like, dude, what? They taking what now? Um, this is a quick side note. I can't remember what the name of it is, but quietly there was a new like way to exchange money that was put online by the government. I forget what it's called. It's like Freedom Now or American Now or something like that. It's basically the money will be processed through them, and then through them it goes through Zelle and Cash App and all that stuff. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it
Well, I
was
know
really
that.
interesting. It's not. Oh, what is it? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, yeah, no. I know I know what they've been pushing is the Federal Reserve, and Janet Yellen's talked about this from the Treasury. Is like basically a Fed dot, like a digital currency that is controlled and issued by the government, which is essentially what China has. And I know there's quite a few people in Washington that are pushing for that. Essentially, it's like think of it as your cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, but it's issued by the U.S. government and controlled by the U.S. government, and that should scare the hell out of people. The fact that anybody's talking about that should terrify you because as soon as the government controls your money, like that essentially would give them the power down the road. If they think you did something wrong, not only could they shut down your Twitter, but like they could actually shut down your dollars. Like, hey, we have the code to like this is their wallet, this is they have $100,000 in there, but it's like of our coin essentially. We're just gonna shut that down. You can't use it anywhere. Like they can't do that with your dollars right now. Like they can't say you can't use $10 bill in your wallet to go buy something. It just doesn't work that way. But as soon as that's digitized and controlled, that's I think probably one of the biggest threats to like our country is if that gets implemented because that just gives ridiculous control. That's it. At the end of the day, you control somebody's money, you control everything.
Yeah, I think it was quietly released. It's called Fed Now. And the allure of it is that it's the first thing that the government's stepping into. So, you know how when you do a wire transfer and you got to wait a few days for the bank? Well, we'll let you do it instantly. If I sent you right now a wire of 50,000 because it's backed by the government, you'll get that 50,000 instantly. That sounds really alluring, but when you take a step back, you're like, wait. Every transaction is being monitored by the government now in full, and there's no privacy or no nothing. To me, that's terrifying. And I feel like, I mean, this isn't anything to have to do with the Restrict Act, but
Yeah.
just kind of talking about like government overreach and how it affects our freedoms and our rights to privacy. I'm reading this article right here, and it said that a lot of banks are actually happy about that because it seems like it's a safer system because they're backed by the government now. So if I wire you 10,000, but did a wire fraud, the bank has to eat that money and repay you back for protection. But now they're like, oh, Big Brother will cover that cost. Yeah, let's roll this Fed now into it. So, and yeah, this happened by the way very sneakily the last couple of weeks. I just again the only reason why I seen it was because it was this TikTok finance guy who was just like, yeah, this is kind of terrifying. Like, I want to know
Yeah.
that when I do a transfer my bank is protecting me, not like, hey, by the way, Max just sent money to this guy. If you want to investigate that, feel free, or all your finances and everything just out on display. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. I feel a little bit saddened by what's going on. And to be fair, this isn't just an American thing. I think these things are also being passed or trying to be attempted in other countries. So it's
Yeah,
not just,
Australia. Yeah,
an
there's a
American.
few other countries doing similar things.
Yeah. So again, the greatest irony, we want to fight communism. And then now there's these things where it's like, damn, the government's getting a lot of control of basically everything in my life.
It
This
is
is pretty
interesting.
scary. Yeah, by the way, with
Yeah.
the Restrict Act, hardware, it's also hardware. So imagine all the stuff that Alexa has on you and you talk about conversation wise. They're doing a case on you or something. You're like, wait, what? You access 20 years of recordings? Like, this is terrifying. So yeah, lots of, things to contemplate and consider. But I would just again back up and say if you want to ban TikTok or other companies, okay, do what you want to do. But this is something that should not be passed. It is 100% a right, a restriction on your freedoms on the internet. So come up with something else,
Yeah.
do it a different way, or just say, hey, anyone who's our adversaries, you're banned. Cool, makes sense. Why this 800-page documentation of things? It's just we don't want to do business with you. Bye. It's pretty
Yeah.
quick. It's pretty
No,
easy.
I agree. I agree. So let's wrap with because we're on a tighter deadline today. Let's wrap with some just some updates, some cool things that are coming to the platform, and then next week we have a few exciting things we'll be doing. So we'll do the kind of what's uh what's happening, kind of this year overview, breakdown of the platform, talking about TikTok, kind of more macro level discussion about the platform organically, the ad side, bigger picture direction of where everything's going, some predictions we might have. So, yeah, that'll be a fun episode. But just like a few cool things. So one big one that I know a lot of advertisers have been asking about. I know it's probably prevented and stopped a lot of people from getting on the platform because there's millions and millions and millions of small businesses, local businesses. Not every business is an e-commerce company. It serves everybody. Is zip code targeting. So for a long time, that's been the thing on TikTok. It's like, hey, I want to target just my little area for my coffee shop, for my chiropractor office, my dental practice, my gym, but I can't because basically you're limited to city or DMA targeting. So zip code targeting is finally coming to open beta. So it's not general access yet, but it's been in closed beta, which is kind of like alpha for a really, really long time, way longer than it should have. And so coming to open beta is a good sign, which means that the next step is rolling out to the entire platform. So some people may start seeing it pop in their account. They might just get luckily, beta access. Some accounts get things earlier than others. If you have a rep, I'd reach out to them and ask about it to get added to the open beta. And if you don't, and you're just like a small business, just keep an eye out for general access, which should happen soon. So that one's really, really exciting. I'm really pumped about that. And then the second one is, well, two more. So one is a little one, which is just like you'll be able to soon basically save drafts to devices, which is nice. So you won't have to like publish your TikTok and then get the link and then bring it to, Michael's Talk download. You can still do it because I think there's still a lot of other benefits to doing that, especially past videos. So still, do that, tokdownload.com. But you can also just like before you publish, save the video as it was, edited with all the stuff you want on it without the watermark. So that'll be pretty cool. Little save device feature in the app. and then a new targeting option, which is pretty cool, which will be based on spending power. So basically, there'll be a new targeting option coming soon where TikTok looks at how much have these users basically spent on ads. So they've seen an ad, they clicked it, bought something. They kind of break down those users into kind of groups and be able to target kind of power spenders on the app, which will be really cool for advertisers. So it's, hey, I'm targeting, people that are interested in health and beauty or health and wellness or, marketing advertising. And they also buy a lot of stuff through ads. That's kind of a perfect audience you'd want to go after. So those are just a few updates, things that are either in beta or coming soon to the app.
Out of all the things you just mentioned, which one do you think is like the biggest deal for new
Zip code
people that are
targeting.
hopping in? Yeah.
I think zip code targeting it's going to add a lot of advertisers. It's going to add a lot of revenue to TikTok. Just because again, like, some gyms, some small businesses have just run and they just run like to the entire city. Like even though it's not relevant to them, they run to like a bigger market just to be on the app. But a lot of small businesses are on tight budgets. They don't have, a lot of cash to throw at it. So they need every dollar they spend to be efficient. So that's kept tons and tons of, think about like most businesses in the country are restaurants, there are doctor offices, there are chiropractors, they're, kind of local, coffee shop. They're like these small businesses there. And all of those advertisers have been on the sidelines of TikTok likely because they can't target by zip code. So I think it's going to bring a massive wave of new advertisers, which is a good and bad thing. The bad thing is it's going to probably make it more expensive for everybody because you get a lot more people spending. That's going to impact you. But I think the good thing is you just get a whole lot more diversity of advertisers on the platform. It's good for businesses, small businesses, to have a new channel to really open up and target on. So yeah, by far that's the biggest one.
Yeah, I was checking. I was logging in right now to see if I have it. I don't have it yet, but yeah, it'll. I'm excited. I think we talked about maybe doing an episode of just like what does TikTok do differently from organic and paid that just
Yeah.
nobody else does or isn't focusing on or they just don't care to. Because I think there's a lot of, I mean, obviously from the organic side of things, it's pretty clear TikTok's done some amazing things, but I think also from the paid side, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, hey, this is kind of amazing. If they could bring that to Facebook, game changer. I mean, simple things like just support, customer support, just being there. But yeah, I'd be very excited to see how that's going to impact things from the zip code perspective. I also think maybe this is like another episode. Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, they do a lot of local marketing and features and stuff like that. Where in the app you can basically buy food or do like DoorDash locally. I know that's going to roll out for TikTok, and I can only imagine for you as an advertiser when you're doing the zip code, how much more richer data that's going to be, not just based off of other things like TikTok
Yep.
Shop or just people click like a basic ad, but more granular. Like this guy loves hamburgers because he always orders from Mr. Beast's face TikTok page, and they can track like he got 10 hamburgers this last month, which I think is probably even better way to target or get data and reach
Oh yeah.
versus something else. So yeah, very eager to see that one, how that turns out.
Yep, that'll add a whole nother layer of data, like you said, to the app at like the local level. So really excited for that. I think it's going to be awesome. So that's what we have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed our breakdown of the Restrict Act and then just some of the product updates there. Let us know too if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching it that has the ability to comment. Let us know what you think of the Restrict Act. Are you in favor of it? Are you against it? And kind of why? Either way, I'm curious. I love getting people's opinions and views on stuff, especially complex issues like this. And as always, wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, follow for all of our future episodes. And for Michael and I, we appreciate your support, appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
See you later.